Hello and welcome back to TCG Inform. So within the last video, I showed off a Mitsurugi Libramanta deck profile and guide over the last two videos. Now for the next deck, it will be the Holy Trinity of Thunder, Wind and Water, Gate Guardian. So, without further ado, let's jump right in, shall we? So, for monsters, we have 2 copies of Sangha of the Thunder, 2 copies of Kazijin, 2 copies of Suijin, 3 copies of Labyrinth Heavy Tank, 3 copies of Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth, and that is all for our archetypal monsters. Let's get into our spells. So for archetypal spells, we have the main field spell, Labyrinth Wall Shadow, 1 copy of Ryoku Guardian, and 2 copies of Double Attack Wind and Thunder. That is all for our archetypal cards. So let's get into our non-engine, hand traps, etc. No matter what you want to call it. So, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Lava Golem, and then for the spells, 3 copies of Fusion Deployment, 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, 1 copy of Terraforming, 3 copies of Raigeki, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, 1 Called by the Grave, and 1 Burial from a Different Dimension. And lastly, for the traps, we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. And that is all for our main deck. So let's move right into the side. Not side, extra, sorry. So for the extra deck, we have 3 copies of Gate Guardians combined, 2 copies of Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind, 2 copies of Gate Guardian of Water and Wind and Water, either way, and 2 copies of Gate Guardian Water and Thunder. Then 1 copy of Super Star Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, and 1 Nightmare Cerberus. Now we can move on to the side deck. For the side deck, we are running 1 copy of Molchami Perulia, 1 copy of Molchami Foolos, 1 copy of Molchami Meows, 3 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Dimensional Shifter, 2 copies of Book of Eclipse, 3 Pod of Extravagance, 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent, 1 copy of Lightning Storm, and 1 copy of Evenly Matched. Now, some replacements for this deck you could replace. Now, if you want to replace some cards in the side deck to the main deck, I would recommend the Pot of Extravagances to be put into the main. You can play through Dimension Shifter, as you mostly are putting your Gate Guardians into your Banish or placing them. So you're placing each of these guys, thanks to the effects of Labyrinth Heavy Tank, Labyrinth Heavy Tank and Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth. You're placing and not sending to the grave. You're banishing them anyways, because they all the contact fusions specifically say you must banish the material. So you can play through a Dimensional Shifter. And you can play D-Shifter to deal with most graveyard-oriented decks, such as decks like Cool Toon you can sort of deal with the D-Shifter, if you get it, and other things. So yeah, it's good to have. You could also put in the Book of Eclipses and the Lightning Storms. The Lightning Storm, maybe evenly matched. This deck is wanting to go second, or at least my build is wanting to go second anyways. But that's all I can really think of, unless you want to put a Zeus in here to pair with the Typhon and an Akashic Magician. Yeah. And now it's time for some answers to comments I've gotten. So, a comment on my Mitsurugi Libromancer video by Arthuran1773, sorry for butchering that, is suggesting Mitsurugi Adignista. I will happily do this after I've done the Gate Guardian stuff, but I will say, since Adignista is not a deck I'm planning on building, the cards for the Adignista stuff will be proxies. Hopefully you are okay with that. And one other thing on my shorts, on my Marincess deck profile short, by Edwin Figure 7903, I think. I don't remember, but that's what I remember from the name. Is to show a combo video. There is a combo video on the guide to Marincess, but if you guys do want me to put the baseline combos into short form for your help, though you don't have to go through the guide and go through the chapters, just let me know and I can do that. But anyways, I will see y'all in the warp.